The second year that Scottie Pippen was an all-star, the rest is history. They won 6 championships in 8 years, but Michael Jordan was always one player away. What if Michael Jordan, when he lost to, it was playing in this era, where he lost to Detroit the first year, or even the second year, he said, well, you know what? I want to play with Dominique Wilkins. I want to play with Keem Olajuwon, or I want to play with Patrick Ewing.
5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
Couple of things here. So Katie obviously has some words for Jordan, or took a shot at Jordan for sure. I mean, clearly that was to Michael Jordan. A couple of things I want to bring down here. I think Michael Jordan is the greatest basketball player of all time, and I think he's been a remarkable career. And I think LeBron, you could argue, is the best. That's a story for another day. But I do
That's
think
just a cop out.
No, it's not.
Yes, it is.
Yes, no, I don't.
See, for me, everything when we talk about the greatest of all time in sports is subject people's opinions. But he said that he think Michael Jordan's the greatest basketball player of all time, and then he said that LeBron James is the best, which I don't see how you come up with that. If you think whoever you think is the greatest of all time, I'm cool with that, as long as somebody worthy of being the greatest of all time. But he says Michael Jordan is the greatest of all time, but LeBron James is the best. And I really, I don't understand that. But anyway.
Make a pick. Make a pick.
No, because they're two different things.
No, it's not.
Somebody can.
Who's the greatest basketball player ever played in the NBA?
Michael Jordan.
Okay, that's what I want to hear.
Right.
Okay,
and
ahead.
if you ask me who's the best,
no, he's not the best. And that doesn't make sense. It's like the Steph Curry thing. He's the greatest shooter of all time, but in the biggest spot when I need a basket, I don't want him to shoot.
Right, because
that doesn't make any sense.
Yes, it is, because you're simplifying something
no,
that's
I'm
not that simple.
It is simple.
Steph Curry makes 9.
Leave in the comments what y'all think. Can you say somebody is the greatest of all time or something, but another person is the best? I'm trying to figure that one out too. Maybe it's something I don't know. Maybe y'all can explain it to me. But if I think something is the greatest of all time, it means that they the greatest of all time and they are the best. And I don't know.
99% of the shots that most people on earth can't make.
No.
But if you ask for him to just take one, yeah, I'm with you. Give me Reggie Miller. Give me Damian Lillard. There's a handful. Larry Bird. There's a handful of guys.
That's what makes you the greatest shooter.
No, it doesn't.
Yes, it does.
One shot does not make you the greatest shooter.
No, it's about making. He hasn't made one.
But
that's the issue.
No,
he hasn't made one. That's the issue.
One shot.
Steph Curry is the greatest shooter I've ever seen. Real talk.
Does not make you the greatest shooter. That's not even.
Disagree.
And that's fine. You the one brought up Steph Curry. So back to what I was trying to say. The only thing I'll say about this is I do agree that I think we have lionized Jordan in the fact that as if he was infallible, nothing went wrong. And that's my only part where I have an issue with Jordan's
it sounds like
legacy.
You didn't cover Michael, because I was there. And he was not. At the start of his career, I could go back and show you newspaper stories when he scored the 63
I'm not
points.
talking. No.
Nobody said he was perfect or he was.
You want me to
greatest.
go or you want to go? I said you can go. So let me go. Michael Jordan, I'm not talking about on a night where he might have shot 7 for 25 in real time. Yeah, I'm sure somebody had an off night. Talking about now, where we now are so far away from it, all we will say is he was 6-0. And I just said he's the greatest. But I do think it's okay to nitpick like we do. When you're bringing up the greatest of somebody, that means we have to find small things to nitpick in the challenge. And my nitpicks with Jordan would be a couple of things. One, those 7 years that he didn't do anything, where he was losing to Magic, he was losing Isaiah, he was losing to Bird, he was losing to these guys and losing to the guys who were, quote unquote, better than him.
Let me stop right there for a minute. He was talking about that Michael, his first 7 years, he was losing to Larry Bird, he was losing to Magic, Isaiah, and those guys. He was supposed to. When Michael Jordan got drafted to the Chicago Bulls, the Bulls in the city of Chicago was last when it came to sports. It was the Bears, the Cubs, the Blackhawks, and even the White Sox. The Bulls was last. They wasn't making the playoffs. So when Michael Jordan came there, he got drafted in 1984, the third pick. They wasn't any good. And when they made the playoffs, they really overachieved. Everything they was doing from that point, they was overachieving because Michael was going against the Celtics, which had Larry Bird, Bill Walton in his later years, Danny Ainge, Dennis Johnson. They had Robert Parrish. They were loaded. They had a Maxwell. They was already world champions, and Larry Bird was 3 times MVP. So playing against those guys, the Bulls was overmatched. They wasn't supposed to win a series against Boston when Michael put up 63. Then they was playing, the Lakers, the Lake Show. It was either Boston or Lakers who were winning. They wasn't supposed to beat the Lakers. And then they wasn't supposed to beat Detroit. Detroit became a good team. As we know, the Bad Boys, they were loaded. They had guys at first like Adrian Dantley. They had Isaiah Thomas, Joe Dumars, Dennis Rodman, Bill Lambert, John Sally, Edwards at the center position. They were loaded. They wasn't supposed to beat those guys. And that's what he was saying. And a lot of people talk about that. Well, Michael Jordan, he never made it out of the first round. He was getting beat. He was supposed to. They beat the Cleveland Cavaliers when Jordan hit the famous shot over Craig Elo. They wasn't supposed to win that series. The Cleveland Cavaliers, they had Ron Harper, who was arguably the second best guard next to Jordan. They had Craig Elo. They had Mark Price. They had Brad Daugherty, Larry Nance, but they beat those guys in the series. But the Bulls was overachieving. Michael didn't even have an all-star on his team. So a lot of people say stuff like that. And I'm not here, I think Michael Jordan's the greatest player of all time, but I'm not here to be a Jordan savior or nothing. I'm just here to speak the facts. It wasn't supposed to beat those guys. You're not going to beat those guys when you the only all-star and they playing with players that's Hall of Famers. They are all-stars that were already champions. You're not going to beat those guys.
Where other guys will be criticized for losing to people who we thought were better than them.
And a lot of times when we criticize other people, on sports, it's they got a good team. We're not talking about Michael Jordan going to the finals, losing. We're not talking about Michael Jordan team that won 50 or 60 games and then in the playoff wet the bed. We're not talking about that. We're talking about a Michael Jordan that was the all-star on the team. He was becoming the best player in the league, and he really didn't have no supporting cast.
And we will be criticized. Why is he losing to Kobe? Why is he losing this person? Why is he losing to Steph? Most people get criticized for that. Jordan doesn't often get criticized for that. I think that's a fair point. Also think it's
because the Bulls wasn't any good.
It's a fair point. When you talk about how many times he got swept in the first round or didn't make it out of the first round, or when you talk about he couldn't beat Isaiah Thomas and those Pistons teams until Isaiah Thomas retired a couple years later, and so did Bill Laimbeer and some of those guys.
They beat Isaiah Thomas and them in 1991. And a lot of people say they were old. No, they were winning. It's just when Michael Jordan got an all-star, Scottie Pippen, it took Scottie about 4 or 5 years to become the best version of himself. They took the Pistons to 7 games. I think it was the third year that the Pistons beat them 3 times in a row. That third year, they went 7 games, but Scottie Pippen had a migraine headache in the 7th game. So Scottie Pippen was an all-star that year. The second year that Scottie Pippen was an all-star, the rest is history. They won 6 championships in 8 years, but Michael Jordan was always one player away. What if Michael Jordan, when he lost to, it was playing in this era, where he lost to Detroit the first year, or even the second year, he said, well, you know what? I want to play with Dominique Wilkins. I want to play with Keem Olajuwon, or I want to play with Patrick Ewing. I want to go somewhere where it's 2 or 3 other All-Stars. Or I want to go somewhere where a team beat me in the playoffs and they were already world champions and they won 73 games, and I want to go play with them the following year. What if Michael Jordan did that? But no, Michael Jordan waited for his team to develop. They drafted Horace Grant. They drafted Scottie Pippen. They drafted B.J. Armstrong. They had veterans like John Paxson, Craig Hodges, and then they bought over Bill Cartwright, picked up Will Perdue in the draft, picked up Stacey King in the draft, and it took those guys years to develop. And then when Scottie became an all-star and the role players developed, 6 championships in 8 years, 2 3-peats. Never went 7 games. That's things you have to look at. That's things that I look at. You don't have to. You can ignore it like a lot of other people, but there's things that you have to look at.
I think that's a fair point. You're just you got to start nitpicking. And then also what his point was, Michael Jordan himself said, I couldn't have just survived in the Twitter era. He said, because I'm so big into privacy. And he talked about how for him, that was the challenge for him, the mental aspect. He said, physically, I'm already worn out, but mentally, I'm super drained. And that's why he retired and went on to play baseball. And I do believe that is a part of what made Kobe Bryant great, what made LeBron great, that they have to have dealt with criticism from all angles and new mediums that nobody else has ever had to deal with.
So that part is true, but it wasn't like Michael Jordan didn't deal with criticism. Now it's all over YouTube. It's everywhere. You see I remember ESPN, when you watch SportsCenter, it was just highlights. Then the sports talk shows start coming on, and all people do is talk about sports. Then you got YouTube doing, people doing stuff like I'm doing now and whatever. So yeah, it's more exposed now, but Michael Jordan dealt with criticism. He dealt with criticism of people saying that a scoring champion would never win a NBA title. And he came up in the era where the centers was the most important aspect of a team. It was a shooting guard, a scoring champion wouldn't win a championship. He heard it. He heard he's not better than Magic. He's not better than Bird. He heard all that. Yeah, it's more exposed today, but it still doesn't negate the fact of what you do when you get on the court. You can have all the noise in the world, but it still doesn't stop what you do on the basketball court.
And then still show up. When LeBron became the black hat for the first time in his life, out was playing the Mavericks, he didn't fold and then go away. I can't take the criticism and I'm going to wait. He went, got better and came back and won. Kobe Bryant was coming back to L.A. on a helicopter from a trial, a literal trial, fighting prison time and playing games and balling out.
And that was tough right there. I get that. Your life on the line and you go on the court and you going to show up to play basketball. It was tough. But we also had to look. Kobe Bryant had Shaquille O'Neal. He had Gary Payton. He had Karl Malone that year. The Lakers was loaded that year. They had a good team. They went all the way to the finals. They were good. And LeBron James in the Dallas series, Dallas wasn't supposed to win that series. That's the first year that LeBron James went to Miami when he teamed up with D Wade and Chris Bosh, and they had Haslam and all those guys. They were loaded. So the difference is Michael Jordan was losing in the playoffs, but he didn't have an all-star. These guys are playing on teams where it's loaded and they getting beat. So you're going to get more criticism when you playing on teams that you should win or you might be the favorite versus you are playing with some role players and you don't have any all-stars on your team.
And so I fully understand stuff goes on, but Michael Jordan needed a break, a reprieve after 8-9 years to go play baseball for a couple years. Then he came back, played a few more years. Then he retired again for came back a couple years. So all I'm saying is it's okay to criticize Michael Jordan. He can still be the GOAT, but it is okay to say that he had some fallacies.
It's okay to criticize Michael Jordan if it's worth it. If it's worth it. Not all criticism is worth it.
Or not fallacies, some things that he was not the best at, or he had some things, or he made some mistakes, or that I didn't like that he did that. And that's all I'm saying. I think it's okay to point those out and yet still can say he's the greatest. Similarly, the way we'll do with LeBron.
No, you make an excuse. You're like the biggest, I'm dead serious, the biggest LeBron apologist I've ever heard.
That's the furthest thing.
No, I'm going to tell you. No. Listen
That's
to me. Listen to me. I think you are, and that's why people think you're like on the payroll. You're on the payroll
every day, Rob G.
You are the biggest LeBron apologist.
Rob G.
No matter what.
How much do I criticize?
Rob is a Michael Jordan fan, but also he's a LeBron hater. It's a lot of times I don't like the stuff he says about LeBron. I think LeBron is the top 3 player of all time. He's on my Mount Rushmore. I don't have anything bad to say about LeBron James in between the lines. Is he a diva sometimes? Yes. But when it comes to basketball, I have nothing to say about LeBron James. Nothing bad to say about Lebron James.
Was good. Nobody was good in Cleveland. LeBron didn't have anybody. When Michael Jordan went to Chicago, what did the Bulls win? Scottie Pippen was this great player, but he never won Finals MVP, even though he was so great, and he's the reason Michael Jordan won. This is the nonsense. I'm just hear me out. This is what people try to make up some scenario. Oh, the only thing you talk about is Michael Jordan being 6-0. No, he was. He was a scoring leader 10 straight times. He won so many awards defensively. He did everything. Nobody's saying he's perfect, but this whole notion that the reason LeBron didn't win is because there's Twitter, or the reason that he didn't win is because Skip Bayless and Rob Parker and Chris Broussard had a morning show on ESPN. Turn the show off. Really? Come on, man. That is weak. That's the reason that LeBron didn't win is because there was debate sports talk show, or because some guy in his mother's basement is tweeting about LeBron and he can't handle it. Oh, my God. This is what you're talking about.
That's not at all what we're talking about.
I can't handle it.
We actually said the point was that he played through that. That was the point. You
but the point is
missed the whole
that
point.
everybody LeBron, he's the one who put on his back in a tattoo, the chosen one. He's the one who called himself the king. That wasn't anybody else. When you do that, you put a target on your back when you talk about you're the king and you're the chosen one. And then you want to bellyache about it. You go from team to team, trying to stack your freaking team, and you still don't win. You still lose more than any other NBA MVP in the history of the sport. You come to L.A., you complain that I don't have anybody. AD, that's not good enough. We need more players. You get Luka, one of the best players in the league. You still get knocked out in the first round. You're going to blame everybody.
The criticism comes like more when you are playing with teams that are stacked. When you're playing with good players, when you're playing with all-stars versus Michael Jordan's first 6 years, he wasn't playing with an all-star. It was just him. And you could probably imagine if Michael Jordan was able to say, okay, I want to play with Dominique and Patrick Ewing, and they joined up years ago. Now, Michael probably would have more championships. Maybe, maybe not. But I know when he got one all-star to play with, it was 6 championships in 8 years. And then a lot of people say, well, the NBA was watered down. The 90s and all the way up 2012. You can leave in the comments, but up to 2012, it was real tough basketball. And a lot of people talk about the Bulls had to go and play against teams like Detroit. They had to play teams like Orlando Magic, who was loaded, who had Penny Hardaway, Shaquille, Dennis Scott. They had Nick Anderson. They were loaded. And the Bulls, when Michael came back in after in the 95-96 year, they swept that team. And then they had Horace Grant on the Orlando Magic. They swept that team. We talk about a team that was loaded. That's the year the Bulls won 72 games and lost 10 and went on to win the chip. And they had the Indiana Pacers who were loaded. Rick Smith, Reggie Miller, the Davis boys, McKee, Travis Best, Jalen Rose. That team was loaded. And we can't forget about the Knicks, who had Pat Ewing, Anthony Mason, Charles Oakley, had Allen Houston at one time, Charles Smith, Greg Anthony. Those teams were loaded. It's very, as you see, it's very emotional conversation when we're talking about LeBron James and Michael Jordan. It's very emotional. And I'm just getting tired of these players and people putting Michael Jordan and Kobe Bryant down. You know, I don't know where that's coming from. I don't know the narrative on that, but I'm just getting tired of it. We need to go to the facts. It is what it is. It's whoever you think is the greatest of all time. I like to know in the comments, put who you think is the greatest of all time. And is this GOAT debate getting old? Is it really getting old, or are you tired of it, or have you had enough? Looks like it's going to go on forever. But it's your boy BC back again. Leave in the comments. Also subscribe, support the channel. Peace. I'm out.